Coming up on Trench Life, we have a special Joe Moore Award announcement. And I visit with Army's Mike Viti, coach of the 2024 award-winning Black Knights. And some great stories from Clay McGuire, whose Texas Tech O-line has led the team to an undefeated start. Trench Life starts now. Welcome into Trench Life. Now, this is a time of year that all of us at the Joe Moore Award have been waiting for. We've watched all the tape, and now we've got a big announcement. The next Wednesday at 8 Eastern, we'll announce the mid-season honor roll right here live on the Joe Moore Award YouTube channel. That's right. Tune in here at 8 Eastern on Wednesday, October 15th, for the exclusive announcement of which units have earned the right to be on the honor roll. It's going to be epic. We'll have a special guest, and as we reveal each unit, we'll be sure to tell you what makes them stand out. It's going to be a fun night. You won't want to miss it. So, in honor of our live announcement, this week we caught up with Mike Viti, the Army offensive line coach of the 2024 Joe Moore Award winners. Few programs in college football embody the toughness, teamwork, and selflessness quite like the Army Black Knights. And leading the big men up front is offensive line coach Mike Viti, a former fullback, a decorated veteran, and a leader of the unit that made history last year by bringing the Joe Moore Award to West Point. And Mike, this is the first time I'm seeing you since we had that presentation before Army-Navy. What was winning the Joe Moore Award like?
Aaron, it's truly an honor. Thanks for having me. But what this award represents, the prestige, the history, and certainly the man it's named after. It takes a lot to live up to it. To put the Black Knights, to put the Army's offensive line into that history is a tremendous honor, and something that will set the new standard and the new North Star for play up front for us in the coming years.
One of the truisms about our position is that it's a process-oriented position. So it's not just what you do, it's how you do what you do. And you mentioned how many new starters you had, but one of the things that really stood out about that line from last year was the finishing. And I'm curious about how you taught that, how that's reinforced, because that really stood out. And in my opinion, and from what we see, it's a dying breed, but that wasn't the case with your unit. How'd that come about?
Yeah, so that's the standard that Coach Monken sets. Playing with relentless effort, which is one of the pillars and one of the evaluation processes, obviously the award. But that's instilled, I think, number one, in the young men who attend West Point. So that's drilled into them day in, day out, and the vignettes they find themselves through their military training, and then the core values of our program. So finishing and that extra effort, and then us having the objective reality that we're playing against some very talented teams, and that's got to be part of our process. This is a 15-round. Every game is a 15-round fight, so those body blows have to be something that show up in the third and fourth quarter. Our unique brand of football, despite being an option team, a lot of conventional principles now. We know that's our competitive advantage, playing cohesive football, intellectual football, technique sound football, and that effort, that extra effort has to show up. It has to be part of the game. And, it inspires your teammates when you see a tackle or a center sprinting down the field 40, 50 yards. We have receivers, right? They call themselves honorary members of the Joe Moore Award because they're in the box, and that's the pride. I mean, really. So it just became part of it, and we have this award called the Dark Knight Weekly, and that became a point of pride, and I think that's where it's inspired from. It's not a singular item. I think it's just the DNA of our program. And when your offensive linemen are kind of leading that tip of the spear charge down the field and playing with extra effort, it inspires everybody else.
Yeah, what's interesting is you didn't play offensive line. You were a fullback, and a damn good one at that. But I'm curious about how that experience and that background as a fullback helped shape how you teach the offensive line position. And what was that transition like for you to learn the nuances? You were basically a glorified offensive lineman back in the day, but it's one thing to do it, another to teach it. Walk us through that.
Yeah, Aaron, I'm glad you brought that up because there's so many guys in our program who played another position in high school and now play a different position at the collegiate level and even the professional level. Lucas Scott is back to playing fullback for the Baltimore Ravens, right? So we pride ourselves on finding really good football players. So going back, just my head coach was a Hall of Fame offensive lineman, Stan Brock. So I was the team captain as a fullback, and I got along with the offensive linemen. Those guys were some of my best friends. So they would always call me the sixth man in the O line, and I played in a conventional Bobby Ross's system back in the day. So I came from a pro style background, and
Oh,
really
come on,
always
Mike
took
Viti. Come on, Mike. We need you to push it up in there, Mike.
that is an elite impression.
It's pretty
Elite,
good, right?
elite. Yep. That is Bobby Ross to it. You know Bobby Ross then.
He was
So I was
here with the
recruited by.
Chargers, and I got to say this. The only reason I know how to do it is because everybody in the Chargers locker room when I got here had a Bobby Ross imitation. So I never played for him. I met him a couple times. But, man, come on. What we doing? We got to get after it.
I'll never forget. We had a poor practice on a Thanksgiving, and you ruined my turkey, is what he said. Bobby Ross is a great man, and someone to this day that we still have a loose connection with 20 odd years later. So, that's where it kind of came from. And then when I transitioned into football, I came back as the running backs coach, fullbacks coach for a different scheme. So I didn't really know triple option football. So I learned that, and then as we transitioned, I was always intimately involved with the run game. So the transition kind of happened as it would with a player. Hey, you're involved in all the run game stuff. This is a really natural maturation for coaches. And hey, from running backs coach, do you want to get in the O line world? And I said, absolutely, please, and thank you.
I want to move ahead to this year. And my goodness, man, I went back and watched that Kansas State game before we hopped on. And that last drive of the second quarter and the entire second half should be in the damn Smithsonian, man. It was beautiful. I'd love from your perspective to walk me through what that was like and how important that score was at the end, because it really seemed like it turned, and then just to control the line of scrimmage for 27 minutes in the second half is something I've never seen in my experience in football. From your perspective, being on the sideline, what was that like?
It starts with getting the ball back. So possessing the football, our defense, at the end of the half, put us in a really good position. And then to me, it moves, just from leadership from our play caller, Cody Worley, who does a masterful job from the background of being a quarterback. You wouldn't think he'd be a guy who's let's keep it on the ground, let's control the clock. But that's the recipe to play at a higher level against a really, really good opponent.
As a fan of the sport, as somebody that's played it my entire life, that's now the grandparent, I get to have fun on the weekends and let it be your problem during the week. You turn the tape on and you see those things and you're like, man, this is the game I remember. This is what the game is about. And some of my favorite memories as a player were those post-game moments. What was said. And one of the best I've always seen and appreciated is when coach gets up and says, I will fight. And the call and response there. And I'm curious, both maybe as a player and certainly now as a coach, on the heels of an historic victory over Kansas State, what that moment was like.
I'm gonna fight! 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 I can't fight no more! 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 I'm gonna lie down! And bleed a while! 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 I'm gonna get up! I'm gonna get up! Up! Fight some more! Fight some more!
Well, I think you look at the guys and they're having a life moment. You've lived enough to realize these guys are going to remember the emotions, the seconds of thought they had, and that camaraderie, and that'll never be taken away. The second thing is it's the shared silver cord that the trials and tribulations, the work behind the scenes in the shadows that went into it. And it's some of that aha moments that's not going to be just left to that night in Manhattan, Kansas, but it's going to be taken with them the rest of their lives. So you're really hitting two fronts with that. And then the purity of the sport. there's no environment, there's no classical setting you can create without that competition in a competitive moment, and then to win, to win. And winning matters here a lot at West Point, and the things that we're going to ask these young men to do. But that's special. And you just see guys who are big, tough, strong guys as they present themselves just have, the natural emotion of a kid waking up on Christmas as a 6-year-old, and it's the same joy. We're just trying to, we 97% of the time goes into preparation for our sport, but to watch, and then maybe 3% is the game. I would say 98% of the games you play, you're only going to get 2 or 3% of those moments that you saw in the locker room, and you see the coaches have the same emotion as the kids, and it's timeless. It doesn't matter if you're 18 or 58. It's all one heartbeat. So yeah, it's special.
I'm curious is to when these young men leave your room and trade their pads in for the uniform of the U.S. Army, what do you hope that they carry with them from your offensive line room?
Hey, Aaron, you watch these guys flip a switch, and it's almost like all the lessons that they gathered, the soft skills that they gathered through the workouts, the practices, the meetings, and certainly the games. It all just gets filtered into their tactics, techniques, and procedures that they're going to be as an officer. But I think the first thing for the men that I get to lead and coach that I think I want everybody to be able to say is that young man is very stoic. He can be trusted. He's a man of integrity. He's the guy that you're going to call on first for advice, for leadership, for performance. He's the guy that you want to send to pick your grandmother up, but he's the first guy that you want in the door when things are about to go down. So I think that mutual understanding that our men are protectors and servant protectors, that other men that they serve with and women look at them as people that they can count on and trust, but also that they're able to protect and serve, and they have that capability, but they have complete control, and they do it in a way that they change the environment, right? I think great leaders have that ability to change the room, change the temperature, inspire, and are aware enough to understand the situation and then what tool to use, what block to use, what leverage to play with, what step to take, where to put their hand, where to put their eyes, what call to make. And they've had those pressure situations their whole career. So I think there comes just confidence in how they go about their craft. So all that said, I just hope that people look at our guys and they know that guy played offensive line at Army. And that George C. Marshall said it best. I want an officer for a secret and dangerous mission. I want a West Point football player. I want guys in the military to say, I want to lead with that guy. I'll fight to lead and work with that guy in the Army.
All right, joining me now is a Red Raider through and through. He was Mike Leach's very first high school commit, coached under Leach, Cliff Kingsbury, and now Joey McGuire. No relation, though, although a family reunion would be pretty interesting. We want to hear about that. He's in year 2 of leading Texas Tech's offensive line, his second stint here. Clay McGuire. Now, Clay, we know that there's always confusion about you and Coach McGuire and what the relationship situation is. Can you clear the record for us?
Well, we're not related. We do spell our names exactly the same, but yeah, we're not related. So yeah, even though it's I'm his illegitimate son, as we talk about in the office.
All right, power, counter, or duo? What's God's play?
Well, for me, I mean, I'm the only O-line coach in America that loves throwing the football 50 times a game. I grew up in the Mike Leach Air Raid and all that stuff. So, my bread and butter right now is counter. So that's what I got to go with. And like I said, I don't have the experience with power or duo or nothing like that to sit there and even be an expert or even try to draw up the play. So it's one of those deals. I got to go with counter.
Well, you've been around some characters, dude. Mike Leach,
Yep.
Cliff Kingsbury, and now Joey. Be honest, who's got the weirdest or most fun staff meetings?
I mean, nobody has more energy than Coach McGuire. I mean, it's unmatched. It's been unbelievable. Like, the just the attitude and energy he has on a daily basis is infectious. You walk in this building, and I mean, I was telling some guys I've worked with in the past, like, golly, I've never been so fresh in my life. Like, it's just a great, unbelievable place to work, and it's up and down the halls. And you know how the grind is, through the season, but you get to the end of the year, you feel really good just because, like I said, from the placebo effect of everybody just being so excited to be there, and so that's been unbelievable. Obviously, Coach Leach's where, I mean, you just never know what's going to happen at Coach Leach's. I mean, I'll never forget, we were, Coach was pretty notorious about being a little bit late, to most of those meetings or whatever, and we just beat SC, about to play at Oregon, and he was about 15 minutes late, and everybody's kind of, you get the rumblings of bitching a little bit here, this, that, and the other, and he comes in and we start the staff meeting, and then about, a minute or two in the staff meeting, he's like, hold on, I got to take this phone call. He gets up and steps out of the room, and it's like, whoa, what's going on, blah, blah, and everybody's like, we got meetings in 30 minutes, we got to get ready for blah, 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 and so he finally comes back in after about 15 minutes, and he's like, hey, I got a fellow that wants to talk to you guys, and so he clicks speakerphone, and it's President Donald Trump on Air Force One, and he talks to the staff for about 5 to 10 minutes on Air Force One, and everybody's like, oh man, like, that's pretty cool that the President of the United States, took 5 minutes out of his time to visit with us, and so you just never knew with Coach Leach what was going to happen.
And I know that you coached the offensive line with him. What did you learn at your time there? Because what Washington State did offensively up front was so unique to what everybody else was doing in the country.
Yeah, so that's kind of been my whole background. I played for him, and I was here for 10 years with him at Texas Tech in some form or fashion. And my first O-line coaching job was with him at Washington State. So I got there in 2012 when we began that program and tried to resurrect it from where it was. It was in pretty bad shape when we got there in 2012. And so, but the one thing, like, that was his baby. The O-line was his favorite position. He made it known throughout the team. Everybody knew that they were the most important guys on the team. He treated them. He really did. And now he demanded significantly more from them, and significantly harder on that position than he was any other position. But he also treated them better as well. One thing I thought Coach was always great at is everybody in the room was always on the same page of how we would teach our, whether it was O-line play, one-on-one wide receiver, quarterback play, whatever it was. Everybody sat in there and kind of heard him coach up the position and how we're going to be successful as a holistic standpoint if we were all on the same page. And I thought that was one of his gifts and where he was great at, and he was able to do that with every single position.
Well, let's flip the script to this year, man, because coming into this season, you had one of the most experienced offensive lines in the country. I think 80-plus combined starts, and that experience is getting harder and harder to have in the world of transiency and the portal and everything. But I'm curious about how that veteran leadership showed up on the road in one of the toughest environments that can be played in this sport in Utah.
It did. I mean, it was evident to see. Obviously, we struggled early. We made a mistake as coaches. We didn't have silent count going in there, and obviously that was a bust on our part, and it really kind of hurt us early. I thought that we were, the way our defense played and the opportunities we had early, we had a chance to really get after those guys. And what was awesome, the defense was playing lights out, and they kept calling over, hey, we got you guys. Yo, we'll be all right. We got you guys. Don't worry about it. We got you. And eventually, we settled in, and then, one of our big things here is to winning fourth quarter. And we went out there, and it was I believe it was a 13-10 game going into the fourth quarter, and they ended up winning the fourth quarter 24-0. And I thought, defensively put the hammer down, and offensively we kind of got rhythm finally and did what we thought we could do.
Was there a moment or a series or a conversation or something definitive that happened where after that moment it just seemed to kind of click and improve as the game went along?
When we started the fourth quarter, we got the run game going. That was the big thing. I felt like we were, it wasn't the best performance we've had pass pro. I thought we should have done a little bit better, but, we were okay, and I thought we were going to be fine if we had to throw the football. But when we finally got the run game going, obviously Will came in and did a great job and added an element with his legs, and so we were able to, again, I think that fourth quarter, and, we might have thrown, and I don't know the exact stats, but if we got 20 plays, we probably threw 5 passes. All the other ones were run plays. We hit the big passes when we needed them, but, we were able to run the football there in the fourth quarter. We probably had most of our yards rushing in the fourth quarter. And so I think one, when the O-line, when we were able to kind of establish that, I think the confidence level from, just from the team throughout that we could do whatever we wanted to at the end, really helped us. I played against those guys several times, and they do as good a job as anybody in college football at building a team and program. And I think it was just a great testament to what Coach McGuire's done here to be able to go up there and win that game.
It was easy to see late in that game, and watching the run game come on late. I mean, those of us that play and know the position, you just like the little boy inside of you, the old lineman, the guy that still thinks he could go out there and probably snap off a stunt, just has to smile because you see it. But also to do that with a new quarterback that's coming up off the bench. But you guys were able to do that, and I'm curious about what you think Will Hammond in his performance, the role that you guys played in that, because those two things aren't unrelated.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think, we have a lot of confidence in Will. Obviously, Barron's our guy, and he's going to continue to be our guy. But, Will played some games last year as a true freshman, and did really well when he had his opportunity to throw in the mix. But also, Will also took every single snap in spring. And so our guys were very familiar with him. It wasn't like there was a new guy in there all of a sudden. He has controlled that huddle. He had 15 practices to run that unit. He's got good chemistry with those guys, and those guys have a lot of confidence in him. Again, it goes back to the culture that Coach McGuire has created here. And like I said, we know our job, and that's what we're supposed to do. And it's one of those things that, regardless who's playing quarterback, we knew we had to establish a run game. We knew we had to protect the quarterback, and we're going to have opportunities downfield against those guys if we could. And I think they did a good job responding. And like I said, it was awesome to see. And again, it goes back to the culture aspect that nobody batted an eye or blinked or nothing like that. It wasn't like, oh my God, we got the backup quarterback in. It was like, all right, we got a job to do. We need to go score a touchdown here and reward the defense for how they've been playing and play complimentary football, and we're going to be okay.
When young men come into your room, what's your philosophy about how you tell them you're going to build them, and what's that process look like?
So, I actually kind of got this, the relationship piece is huge. It's more important now than it ever has been. I said, used to when you signed a kid, you had them regardless, and they were going to, you could kind of take that militaristic viewpoint of, tearing a kid down and building him up exactly how you wanted to. And I think that's the old school philosophy of doing things. That kind of hard-nosed, tough love, discipline type deal, which obviously is, you still need that from time to time. But, I saw a great clip of Pete Carroll talking about his coaching philosophy, how he changed from that. And, he talked a lot about the Navy SEALs and they're great thinkers, and we want our guys to, be individualistic, be themselves within following in kind of the parameters of the culture and the team, and so I think today more than ever, it's more important to, find a way to build those relationships off the field. And again, I can't go back enough to what Coach, I've never been around a head coach that is more involved with the kid's life than Coach McGuire. It's pretty unbelievable. I still find myself fascinated when, a kid will tell me something about a conversation out with Coach McGuire. I'm like, man, really, that's pretty impressive that he actually knows that about you. You know what I mean? And all stuff like that. But then when it comes to, as far as building the offensive lineman from a player standpoint, I felt, one of the best things that happened in my career, a guy named Robbie Toback and a guy named Dylan Cadney. Dylan was a former teammate of mine, played for the Colts and the Lions for 10 years, won a Super Bowl there with the Colts. And Robbie played 14 years with the Falcons and the Seahawks, and was a former Coug. I just kind of fell in line with him. But, just digging into their mindset of what it took to build, 24 years of multiple Pro Bowls, multiple Super Bowls, very successful careers with guys that, they're obviously great players, but it wasn't like they were uber talented freak shows or anything like that. And kind of their process of what it took to be, to play at that level for that long. And it kind of came from a holistic standpoint of, I think people don't realize how hard it is to play this position and how much work it takes. I mean, these guys in the NFL, they don't finish the season and go straight to, 4-month-long vacation, making all this money and sitting on the butts on it. This is a 365-day-a-year grind where you're constantly developing your skills to have to, to be able to play at that level, and it's one of those things. I kind of took that approach to our guys, and, they bought completely in, and we have, pretty much a year-long scope of how we're going to train these young guys to play this position because, as you know, they call the receivers and the running back skill guys, but the most skilled position in the world is offensive line. It's not.
Let's go.
So, I mean, you're going to play 5 edge rushers a day, in a game, and they're all going to rush the passer different. You have to have 5 different ways you're going to be able to defeat this guy, and that's something that's kind of helped change my career from where I've been, and that's been a huge philosophy line of that. We're a 365-day-a-year group. We're not a season group, a 15 practice spring ball guys. We're a 365-day-a-year group that, the work that has to be put in. And I also think too, when you go back and you do it that way, that, especially in this day and age with the transfer portal, you talk about building chemistry. That's how you do it. You find all the extra times and times to spend together where they can become a group. And like I said, I mean, it's one of those deals, as much as I'm their coach, I mean, those guys, it's player-led. If you're not player-led and they don't know the answers and they don't know, what needs to happen, then, you're not going to get the results that you need to get.
Cody O'Connell was one of those players that you've been able to coach that got tremendous results. What made coaching him easy?
One, he had great talent. He was enormous, but it was one of those things too, he was able to sit in our system. He had been banged up in high school, and so we were able to coach him for 3 years, and he was a ball of clay. I mean, there was no, it wasn't like he was set this out. We built him from the ground up, and, for 3 years, he got to sit and just kind of grow in that position. And when he got his opportunity, he made the most of it. That's one thing I was so proud about that kid is, he sat till his junior year, and then when he got his opportunity, I mean, he turned it on, and you saw the results. And he had a great season for us there in 2016.
I don't know if you're a big music guy, but if you were and had to pick a walkout song for your O-line before kickoff, what would get you guys hyped up and ready to go?
Oh, man. Walkout song for the O-line? Man, I'm a big wrestling guy. I would love Stone Cold's, breaking the glass coming out with the BMF walk and all that stuff like that. I think that would set the tone pretty well. So, I mean, I'm sure I could probably figure another one out, but off the top of my head, I'd probably go with the Stone Cold entrance song.
Did you see John Cena last week in the tribute that he get? How about that?
Yeah, I didn't see it. I have a big argument going with Ben Arbuckle over there in Oklahoma. He's a big John Cena guy, and in my opinion, I've studied wrestling. I was a pretty big wrestling fan growing up, and he's not even on the mountain as far as when it goes to the top wrestler. And me and Arbuckle have a pretty good argument about, the fact that Cena's up there. I'm like, it's not even close. So I don't even think.
I think there's only one way to settle that. You guys have to have a cage match to winner take all.
I'll pick my top 5 versus his top 5. Well, I think we're going to win.
Oh, look at you. You made it all the way to the end, grinding through like it's play 18 and 9 on 7. So pancake that subscribe, smash that like button, and pull around the corner to share this with your buddy. Trent's life rolls best when the whole crew's in the huddle.